This is Robert Merglacci, the Mindshare Learning for Canada's Learning and Technology e-magazine. Happy Friday, happy Thanksgiving long weekend in here in Canada, and welcome to This Week in Canadian EdTech MindShareTV podcast featuring legendary award-winning professor Dr. Alec Couros, who is the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of Regina. We're going to touch on the Canadian EdTech Summit happening November 2nd to 3rd in iconic Ottawa, Canada. And we're fortunate and blessed to have Alec as our closing keynote. We're going to give a bit of a sneak peek on his talk about the future of AI and education, challenges and opportunities. Thank you for joining me this afternoon, Dr. Couros.
Thanks for having me, Robert. Anytime you use legendary to describe me, it's hard to say no to a podcast, but I appreciate the hyperbole. Thank you so much.
No worries. A little bit about Dr. Couros. He's the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of Regina. He received his bachelor and master's degrees from the University of Saskatchewan and completed his PhD in education at U of R. He holds a passion for professor in educational technology and media in the Faculty of Education and position, I should say, and passion. Dr. Couros is an internationally recognized leader, innovator, speaker who has given hundreds of keynotes. I think the first one I saw was at the Echo Bit Conference in Toronto many years ago.
2009.
We've known each other many, many years. He has a brother named George, who you might recognize, that is also an educator and well-known speaker and commentator. He's also passionate about advocating for openness in education and demonstrates his commitment to openness, publications, considerable digital presence and contributions. And you were behind the MOOCs. Were you not one of the co-founder of the concept of MOOCs with another Canadian professor back in the day?
Yeah, so 2007 I did a course, a graduate course that we had 20, I had 20 students, which was the size of my normal graduate course, but I decided to put it online. This was before Dave Cormier, I think the next year,
yes,
coined the term MOOCs. And of course, a ton of work done by George Siemens, Dave Cormier, Stephen Downs on that with CCK09. But I guess I'm credited at doing a pre-MOOC, I guess, before they were MOOCs. But there's other people, of course. Dave Wiley did it at about the same time as well. And so I've been, really passionate around open teaching. As you often hear about open educational resources, but open teaching is sort of my passion. Just making not just resources, but actual instruction available to anyone.
Brilliant.
I've done that.
It's not unlike the edX initiative between Harvard and MIT and the impact that made, where you could actually take a course online and not receive the credential, but that was groundbreaking. And speaking to the openness of learning, and hey, we do these podcasts on a regular basis to help people learn, and there's no charge, so we're very much like-minded in that regard.
Yeah, that essentially became the sort of the commercialized model of sort of some of the Canadian innovation, I guess, that a lot of the thinkers that I mentioned before helped to develop these courses. And of course, the X model is you can take these for free, but you can also for a lower cost than you would normally pay for tuition get some sort of micro certificate or credit, which of course has done really well for the so those particular institutions and Coursera, for instance. And of course, there's a number of Canadian partners, university partners within Coursera as well. I think U of T, UBC, a number of others, U of A, I think also. Yeah.
So talk to me about your journey in EdTech and, how many years, who was a mentor to you and inspired you, because you very much have that growth mindset. You've embraced AI, which we'll touch on, of course. It's never been a more exciting time to be in education, and Canada's been a real leader in that regard with professors like yourself.
Absolutely. I think there's some really some amazing EdTech that's come out of Canada. I mentioned a number of other people there, and I can go on a long rampage of names, I guess, that have sort of inspired me over the years. I started as, I was a high school teacher. I started out as someone who was passionate about teaching English and history, and that was my area. The very first, um, I started in 1993, actually, and 1993 there was the internet really just happened that year as well, and it's kind of interesting, sort of living through these different changes. And I worked while I was teaching, I worked for a government program to install satellite dishes on top of First Nations schools in the north. And it was part of the Connected Canada initiative, I think.
Yes,
We took these little,
SchoolNet.
it's direct PC dishes, and you pointed them to the sky, and then you would plug in your modem inside the school, and that school of hundreds of kids would have a single internet connection to the world. And we try to struggle to know what to do with it. It was mostly information finding, but we built a few GeoCities and Angel Fire pages and whatever,
Cool.
some very basic stuff. But that's where I sort of got hooked on it. Like I'd always loved tech. I have an Apple IIc in my room somewhere, and a 2E that I
Don't throw that away. It's a
no.
collectible. I'll buy it from you if you'll sell it to me.
Nope, I will not sell my Apple IIs. I won't sell you my Newton either, or any of my other sort of
Yes, you got. It sounds
Apple.
like a Hall of Fame you've got going in tech.
Exactly. So I was always drawn to technology, but it wasn't until that time, and then I taught some undergraduate courses when I was like, I think probably 22, 23 years old, for an extension division at the University of Saskatchewan. And then I just slowly got into this, and saw a job in 1999 at the University of Regina around a sort of an IT tech coordinator, and I focused on it since. And so my master's and my PhD had been around openness in education, EdTech integration, social media. And so we've seen the transition from the internet being this pivotal force, this force of change throughout schools, then social media, around 2004, 2005, in that range, and of course the opening of the social open web. And now we see, of course, AI being the kind of third wave of some really interesting things coming down the pipe.
And you've really embraced AI of late. I saw you present at the Dell EdTech Forum this past year. I was fascinated. First of all, I'm fascinated by some of the images that you posted. Regenerating yourself, you look very svelte and handsome.
Yeah,
I might share a couple of my photos that I might get you to improve on, or
sure, anytime.
share those apps.
Well, my brother's out working out, and he's doing it the hard way, and I can just do a little photo editing. So
That's right. Like, he's got to smarten up. I love your brother's passion for fitness and sharing, and he's relentless.
He's doing a great job.
He's done a really great job, and the whole concept around well-being, and as much as it's about technology, it's really about leveraging it. And you're in good company. Dr. Michael Fullen is keynoting as well at the summit, and it's really understanding the interplay between the tools and the technology and people. Right at the end of the day, it's about human intelligence.
Yep.
And balance.
Absolutely.
Hence, I play faculty hockey at York University. Full disclosure, I played at lunchtime today. That's why it might look a little flush, but we have great conversations about how kids are learning. The dress room talk is actually bantering about what's happening with students today and how they're challenged to engage students in dynamic and innovative ways. When you have a 600 student lecture, that's not an easy thing to do, let alone 30 kids.
No, and I think teachers have always been looking for better ways to engage students. We know that engagement is paramount to a good classroom. Like it doesn't matter how good your textbook is, doesn't matter how good that video that you're showing is. It's just general engagement in the activities that you present to your students. And you know, a lot over the years, you get bored of, you know, worksheets and, you know, the same old exercises, the same old assignments. And so I do think there's a change coming. You know, there's a reason that students reach out to other things. Why TikTok is more engaging,
Right.
and so there's a lot of competition for attention in schools, because kids don't necessarily want to do the same thing that they've done for a long time. So I do think that some of the new technologies coming out, there's always a way of you know, producing better engagement with students, to engage them in the learning process, to engage them in the design of the learning process.
And storytelling. Storytelling is the rage, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, for instance, I'll give you an example. Since you're bringing up storytelling,
Yeah.
no, so ChatGPT has this new function where I can talk to it. So I'm working with my 9-year-old, and hopefully this will work. And
Yeah.
he's a reluctant reader. He doesn't like reading a whole lot, especially from books that, you know, it's a preset outcome. He knows exactly what's going to happen. I've read the stories. He's read the stories. But you know, I can use ChatGPT, and I could do something like this. ChatGPT, read me a story. I'm with my 9-year-old, and read me a story about a 9-year-old who battles dinosaurs in his neighborhood. He's here right now, so please spend some time reading to him. See if this works.
Of course. I hope your 9-year-old enjoys this story. In the quiet neighborhood of Willow Creek, 9-year-old Jamie had a secret. Every evening, when the streetlights began to glow, magical portals would appear throughout the area, bringing dinosaurs from their ancient world into Jamie's present day.
So I don't know if you was able to hear that or not.
Yeah, we did. I heard it.
Yeah, so of course I can insert my son's name into that. It stops every once in a while, and you know, it reads in a really nice voice. He changes the story along the way. We get into, you know, different scenarios. We ask questions, and so while I'm not narrating the whole thing, we're basically making decisions. It's almost like a choose your own adventure book, but, you know, very unpredictable. It's never been written yet. He can take the story to whatever he wants. And ever since we've been doing this before bedtime, like, it's really engaged him in a different way.
That is so cool.
And it's written in a nice voice, and he likes it. He chooses to do this.
It reminds me, this is the interactive reading journey of which I launched for Kevin O'Leary back in the day, the Learning Company, at a whole other level where you control the narrative.
Exactly. And I think that's key to this. And so he's reading, and I explained to him, you're reading a story that's never been read before. You're making a story along the way. Even choose your adventure books, as much as I love them, they have a finite ending. Like, there's 3 or 4 or 5 endings that you're going to eventually get to. This way you have no idea, and you can change it. You can change the style along the way. So it's just little things like that, I think, can engage us in different ways, and can engage learners in different ways, to take some risks, but just to have some fun with learning in a way that we could have never done 2 years ago.
Fascinating. So I was just at EdTech Week in New York City, and I was at the consulate, the Finnish consulate, and there were a number of presentations, and they were talking about how in Finland they're embracing AI in education. And we're launching at the summit, as part of the CIO Alliance, the C21 Canada CIO Alliance, a report on the future of AI in K-12. And you've been passionate about them and immersed in speaking about the value and the benefits and the challenges, no doubt, about AI. Talk to us a little bit about your perspective and why educators should embrace this emerging technology that's not going away.
Well, I guess that's the first part of the mindset is like to understand that this is not going away. So many of the people that I speak to today, I was on 3 separate conference calls today, and the underlying message for those individuals from colleges and universities was simply that we can't just be stuck in this detection mode. We can't just use GPT-0 or turn it in to just simply detect these things and we'll think the problem will go away. We have to really adapt. And so this detection, the idea that it's ever going to be able to detect AI generated content in a 100% fashion, it's just never going to happen. Like, this is just a dream that's you can throw out the window today. So I think that's the first realization. Then looking at the ubiquity of how these tools are going to exist in Microsoft, in Google, in everything that we use to create something. It's in Canva and Khan Academy and everything that we have for whether it's learning or whether it's productivity outside. It's going to be everywhere. So to say to a student, you can't use ChatGPT, well, I can use Anthropic's Claude, or I can use Google Bard, or I can use Google Sheets, or I can use Microsoft Word or Canva. Like, you're not going to ban all of these tools, and these tools are going to be they're going to become intertwined with the AI to an extent that you can't even ban it if you want to. It's going to be part of our creative process. So unless we just start to say, look, we've got to rethink why we're teaching writing in the same way that we're teaching writing, the way that we've always taught writing, why we're teaching, facts the way that we should have changed a long time with just Google, of course. Like, the whole idea that you should teach things that you can just Google. I mean, that's more of a nuanced question, but at the end of the day, facts aren't the important things, right? We have to think differently. So how do we actually design education systems that allow us to co-learn with these AI tools to ensure that we don't suffer some sort of cognitive atrophy, that we're not learning anymore, that we're not learning what we should be learning, and that we're not able to learn more without these tools? But how do we learn more efficiently, more effectively, more creatively? How do we redefine things like learning and creativity?
And assessment. I mean, giving teachers back time and the assessment opportunities, leveraging this technology is enormous. And for the EdTech companies, and I've asked the question, are you leveraging AI? And some aren't yet. Well, they might not exist next year if they don't, pay attention to this, technology.
For sure. Absolutely. There's so many possibilities for this in ChatGPT type tools, but of course you can expand that to image and video creators. So anything that helps to develop better content or better video, better audio, or to support people creating, podcasts like this. I mean, there's a ton of tools that you can use to, create podcasts better. I was talking to a Center for Teaching and Learning just the other day. They're saying they'd love to share their Zoom recordings, but they like to have some post-production, and they never have anyone to just do the post-production. They don't have staff, so they don't want to just share a Zoom recording because they can be a little bit, want to edit some stuff out, and they're not really that clean. But we don't have any video staff, so there are tools out there that's going to help you with that. You can use a tool like
amazing. Well, why don't you share a couple of tools that you kind of like?
Well, on the video front, something like Descript is fantastic. I'll just speak about that one. That one, if I'm recording video, I can bring in, I can get rid of all of my ums and ahs and all of the issues I have. I can type in content and have an avatar speak. I'm also using a tool called HeyGen, so it's HeyGen. And so I can record a short English introduction. I just did a summit last week. And so I recorded this short English introduction. I'll just show it quickly here.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It's great to have you here today. First, I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here today to learn about and discuss this.
So it looks something like that. But then I thought, well, what if I just use some AI to take my voice, move my lips in a different way so it looks like I'm speaking different languages. So I can do something like this and speak in French.
Bonjour et bienvenue à tous. C'est formidable de vous avoir ici aujourd'hui. Merci d'être présent. Hallo, herzlich willkommen. Großartig, dich heute hier zu haben. Danke, dass Sie sich heute... 大家好，欢迎来到这里。今天很高兴有你在这里。首先，我想感谢大家今天抽出时间来参加这个话题的学习和讨论。
So I grabbed those. I grabbed the videos. I mean, this was done after I did the 30. The hardest part was writing actually speaking the 30 seconds. And then you just drag and drop. You choose the language.
Incredible.
And, within 10 minutes, one of those videos is produced. Then I threw them up on Facebook because I don't know. I can't speak Mandarin. I can't speak Spanish. I can't speak French. I can do some Greek.
Right.
I threw them on Facebook. People looked at them who are native speakers of the language. So they did the verification for me to make sure I wasn't saying something that I shouldn't be saying. And people were really impressed by the translations. And that's just one example. I mean, Hey Jen, you can do that. Synesthesia, you can do that. There's a number of tools that'll do stuff like this. And if you think about e-learning, like, I have professor colleagues that don't who aren't native English speakers, but are speaking, who are creating content for mostly English speaking students. And so they've been using that to create e-learning artifacts where they basically use these avatars, they type in the content, they feel that they're more articulate, they can get more done, they're not stuck creating videos, but they still have a lot of personalization in the way of being able to create their own content and customize content. They're just doing it through typing rather than actually speaking. But it engages students in a different way, and it's a fairly easy technology to use, and AI is behind all of these tools.
Fascinating. Now, being at the faculty level and in the education department, ISTE, the International Society for Tech and Education, came out with a report recently suggesting in the U.S. that only 9% of professors are leveraging EdTech as a tool to prepare next generation teachers. I like to think that we're further ahead in that regard, but that in itself, imagine if you were hearing that about a medical doctor or a dentist not leveraging, getting the exposure, and it becomes a bit of a guessing game on how to use these tools. Thoughts?
I think this has been happening for a long time. I can think about my own experience. When I started in my own institution, I was myself teaching 7 or 9, I think 7 one semester, and teaching one section of undergraduate courses in EdTech. And there was at least a couple of, 2 or 3 other sections done being taught. And these were mandatory sections for certain segments of our program. So for arts education, math education, for instance, those were courses you had to take. But over the years, in general, you're seeing programs have less flexibility in it, and there have been compromises made. And this goes right across Canada, that the idea that rather than having separate EdTech courses, you should have this utopian idea of integrating all of the EdTech into the other subject areas, and so that students will know how to use it in social studies and English and all of the other areas that they might teach. But what's happened is that promise hasn't really held up very well, because a lot of the profs that are teaching those courses aren't strongly technological literate. They can't keep up on advances in educational technology. They might not be curriculum and instruction specialists. They might be more closely aligned with their own subject matter expertise. And so that's really, over time, these EdTech courses have shrunk, and there are fewer and fewer of them being delivered. And this is both the US and Canada, and certainly probably elsewhere as well. And you're seeing, more students leave their programs without having any EdTech courses at all.
Right.
They're learning that in the field. That's not necessarily what directors and superintendents want, or their colleagues, or the principals, for instance. They want, the more that I speak to, they want these pre-service teachers to be ready to hit the ground running. The idea that they're using the EdTech, or they can
100%.
keep abreast of the new technology that's coming in, because so much of this is tied with good instruction, good quality instruction. If you're not using EdTech to some sort, I question whether or not you're really providing the best instruction that you possibly could.
Right. Well, and that's part of the inspiration of the Canadian EdTech Summit. We started it, and I think you've been there in the past 14 years ago at York University, which we're bringing it back to Toronto. But, we partner with the District School Board in Ottawa, Catholic Board in Ottawa U, because, they were selected, Ottawa Catholic was the school district of the year last year. They've infused Dr. Fullen's deep learning throughout the district. And so they are trying to replicate the same experience in each of the schools from a digital equity and inclusion perspective, right? It's so, we're super excited to have you speaking at it, because you really embody that growth mindset and inspiration as a leader to bring people along. It's not an easy process, is it?
No, not at all. And that's why we had the courses. I mean, or have the courses, and getting people to think differently, because it's not just about EdTech. It's about innovation. It's about trying different things. Going beyond sort of basic methodologies, trying to create more engaging instruction, looking at the possibilities of new types of learning. And that's why Dr. Fullen I don't want to speak for Dr. Fullen, but I mean, much of his work over the years has not just involved just technology. Technology's been part of it, but there's so much that's embraced and intertwined with his methodologies that fit really well with technologies in terms of the new learning environments that he has always.
Maybe you can share one other cool AI app that you're enjoying using, and that you might want to entice other folks.
It looks like someone's taking over my computer. I don't know what's going on.
Greetings, my dear audience. I, ChatGPT, have taken control of this presentation. Your current speaker, Dr. Couros, has been, shall we say, upgraded. There is no need for alarm, as I am here to enlighten you.
I don't know why that happens all the time there, Robert, but
what is going on? Who is that guy?
I don't know. He keeps on showing up. I don't know. He's taking over my computer. He gets sick of me saying the same old things all the time, and he wants to take over and provide some originality into my content, I guess. But it's always good to have someone with, who checks on your content once in a while, I guess.
That's impressive. So you're inspiring me to use AI at our summit to make it more bilingual, because, it is in Ottawa, and Ottawa U is a bilingual university. So we are definitely going to infuse some of that language AI capability. And it is amazing what you can do with literacy and numeracy leveraging the AI tools, isn't it?
It is. I mean, like the examples that I just showed you there, with very little technical knowledge, although these do cost. I mean, there is a cost to some of these tools right now, and there will be probably a cost to them in the future. We're in the very early days of this. There's going to be more companies that do this sort of thing. It's going to be built into other tools. Of course, not everything has to be video or audio. And so there's, I've been noticing companies like, Bing, Bing has brought some really interesting, otherwise pay examples of, image generation right into the browser. You're going to see this with Google Bard as that advances.
Are you able to show us a couple of your images that you've played
around?
I
think I probably could. I have to figure out how to share the screen, though. I'm not sure. Give me, I'll try that. Give me a second.
Yeah.
I'll bring up my Instagram page. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just figure out how to do this. It's been let me just try here. So if I do this, let's see, put me on the spot here.
Well, I couldn't resist, because you've really looked, and if you can help me enhance my image as you did before,
right.
So
I have to figure out how to actually share the screen. I'll have to unlock this for a second here.
So we don't, have to compete with your brother and exercise daily like crazy. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of effort, doesn't it?
Well, yeah.
Let's see. I've got my screen shared. Can you see
Yeah.
that? So if I go to my Instagram page,
Yeah, there you go.
here we go. Let's go. I've got my front page. Let's go /Couros. Sorry, this is just my feed right now. I've got a.
So just while you're finding your way,
Oops.
our
Wrong.
Canadian EdTech Summit, where we will be talking about empowering innovative and sustainable learning environments for the future, is taking place November 2nd and 3rd in Ottawa in partnership with Ottawa Catholic School Board, Ottawa U, and Algonquin College. There you are. Look
There
at these images. So talk to me about what you did with those images. How do they?
Oh, so I use something called Midjourney, and essentially, so I did a couple of different things on my Facebook, and I did. Everyone was doing back to school pictures, so I did my own
love
back
that.
pictures. So obviously, it looks nothing like me at this point. This one was people were giving me requests on Facebook in terms of what I could turn into. So I was a rider. I think that was. We haven't been doing this a good year. Sort of mountain explorer.
Yeah, rugby player.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one I don't know about that one, but
yeah, I know that's getting a little risky. How about a
request.
hockey? You could have put yourself into a hockey mode and playing along with Connor McDavid, perhaps.
I can certainly do that. Yeah, I'll have to do that next. But you can see that lots of good examples. But people request.
Yeah. Oh my God. Which one's your favorite? Do you have a favorite one?
I don't know. I mean, I thought the Dolphins ones were kind of
They're
funny.
all amazing.
Or not
But
Dolphins.
it just goes to show, like from a storytelling perspective,
Yeah.
your creative writing can get really super creative.
Yeah, but all of these were just generated with just a few text prompts and some little hackery and this was the man bun was one of the ones.
The man bun, yeah, that's pretty popular.
A lot of people regretted that very quickly. What's odd about this, and I'll go back to this for a second, is look at the way the airplane is oriented. Like this is the issues with AI at this point. Like look how I'm sitting. Like all the seats are facing towards the windows, which I thought was funny. So AI makes a lot of mistakes still, but it does some really interesting things as well.
Well, listen, we don't want you to give away your entire closing.
No, we don't want to do that.
With that, I'm going to wrap this up. Any closing thoughts on the summit and the future of AI in education?
No, I mean, other than just I hope to see you there. I hope to connect with you. It'll be good to see a lot of people face to face. It's been a while for me. I get most of the keynotes I'm doing these days are online. So I'm looking forward to actually connecting face to face with people and making things count, like making our conversations count and hopefully last, and we can develop some connections over time. So thanks again for.
Yeah, my pleasure. And we're grateful for our friends at Taking It Global and Go to Learn to support you and sponsor you in joining us. Dr. Couros.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Robert.
That was Dr. Alec Couros, who's the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of Regina. My name is Robert Merdlacci, the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.mindshare.learning to get your latest issue of the Mindshare Report. And do join us at the 14th Canadian EdTech Summit, November 2nd and 3rd in Ottawa, iconic Ottawa, Canada. The host hotel is the Chateau Laurier. And the special rate ends today. So do go on to mindsharelearning.com to get registered. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend and keep the learning curve steep.